I, 30F, my husband, 30M of 7 years, is really angry that I refused to quit my job to become a stay-at-home wife. I really love my husband, he's an amazing guy, but like any couple, we have our flaws. We both aged out of foster care and met at a youth fulfillment program. It was like a crash course in adulting for kids without families, teaching us everything from basic life skills to managing finances and getting certifications. We were both 18 when we met and stayed in touch after the program ended. At first, I was hesitant because of some past experiences, but eventually we became friends. Then, a year or two later, he happened to be in my area, and I asked him out on a date to practice being comfortable around guys. Surprisingly, he agreed. What struck me about him was how respectful and understanding he was. He never pushed me, never made me feel uncomfortable. We went on these platonic dates for months, just enjoying each other's company. Then one day I asked for a hug, then a kiss, and before I knew it, he asked me to be his girlfriend. Fast forward, and here we are, almost 7 years of marriage later. We made a pact early on not to rush into having kids since we both grew up with young parents. Instead, we've been focusing on saving up for our own home, trying to be as frugal as possible. But lately, I've been wondering if we're missing out on something by not starting a family sooner. Any advice would be appreciated. Thanks for listening. Thankfully, we finally bought our house a few months back, and it's been such a game changer. We were both able to ditch our second jobs and now just work regular 9-to-5s. It's been such a relief. I've discovered a newfound love for gardening and baking, and having a real home to call our own has been amazing. It's been making me think more and more about starting a family. We've been talking about having a baby, and honestly, I feel ready. Sure, there's some fear mixed in there, but overall, I'm excited. However, my husband brought up a concern about me potentially quitting my job. He's worried about how I'd feel giving up something I've worked so hard for. But here's the thing, I have no plans to quit. I've made it clear that I'll only be taking maternity leave, and luckily my company offers remote options for new parents, so even after the baby comes, I can still work from home if needed. Sure, it'll be a juggling act, but giving up my job isn't on the table. My husband seems to think I'm blindsiding him by sticking to my career plans, but I don't see it that way. I've always believed I can have both a successful career and be a great mom. After all, plenty of women do it every day. Why should I have to choose one over the other? He said having both of us working remotely wouldn't meet the needs of a baby, and I suggested a solution. Why doesn't he quit his job while I go back to work remotely after I've healed from giving birth? That way, we'd have both of us available to help with the baby, and we wouldn't suffer a significant loss of income since I earn $89,000 per year compared to his $52,000 per year. His response was unexpected. He mentioned that if I truly trusted him, this wouldn't be an issue. I assured him that I do trust him, but I also have concerns about the current economy. However, what I didn't say was that I genuinely believe quitting my job with no savings since it was all used for the house and relying solely on a man is not a smart move. Unfortunately, he had to leave due to prior plans with his parents, so we agreed to continue the conversation later. But he left visibly upset, angrier than I've ever seen him. I can't understand why he just assumed I would quit my job. It's not only confusing, but it's also making me trust him less than I did before. I have a tendency to avoid problems, but I can't help feeling anxious about this situation. Update 1. It's been a few days since he dropped the bombshell. He met someone else at work, a woman he claims is better than me. She's already a mother, and she's apparently going to be a stay-at-home partner. So I guess he's found his happy ending. Right before I finished work, he texted me, asking me to pick up food from one of our usual date night spots. When I got home, I saw his car packed with boxes and a woman I didn't recognize. I tried to open the door, but it was locked, and she just stared at me. He took what little was left of our savings and both of our cats. I never saw any of this coming. I haven't had the heart to tell any of my friends yet. Thankfully, his adoptive parents have been bringing me food, although I can't even bring myself to eat it. I haven't shed a tear yet. I'm still in shock, I think. I wish I had a family to turn to right now, but for the time being, the internet will have to do. I've ignored all of his calls and texts. He keeps asking if I'm okay. How could I possibly be okay? I never imagined he would cheat on me. I even made him promise that if he ever found someone else, he'd tell me right away. But it turns out they've been together for at least 6 months. So while he was calling me selfish for not wanting to quit my job and become a stay-at-home partner, he was seeing her behind my back the whole time, planning a future with her. It's just unbelievable. I feel so foolish. Maybe I should have listened more closely to everyone's advice. When I suggested therapy, he flat out refused. Even his parents are worried about his mental state. Maybe I should have trusted my instincts and kept my distance from him. I should have prioritized my own well-being and chosen a different path for myself. It's like I'm back to being that same girl who feels unlovable all over again. I understand that what he did isn't my fault. I know I couldn't have prevented it, and deep down, do I really want a man who doesn't want me? Absolutely not. But knowing all that doesn't make the pain go away. Update 2. I really want to express my heartfelt gratitude to everyone who reached out with kind words. Especially to those spouses who have gone through similar experiences. Your support means more to me than you could imagine. A few things have happened recently, and honestly, I'm feeling exhausted in every possible way. The advice and support from people like you have been invaluable in helping me sort through my thoughts and stay open-minded. For days, I couldn't help but compare us and wonder what on earth he could have been thinking. Then it hit me she's like a carbon copy of his biological mother, or at least the stories he heard about her since she passed away when he was just 5. It's hard not to feel sorry for him, even after everything he's done. We offered him support, encouraged him to seek therapy. I even offered to pay for it myself, but he was too proud to accept help. I've also lost both of my parents, albeit at a later age, and with more memories shared, so I understand grief. But he chose to isolate himself and drown in self-pity. On our 7th wedding anniversary, he called me minutes after midnight, whispering apologies and expressing guilt. When I asked him what for, he simply said, "You know what we're going through." I had to correct him. It's not we, it's what he's doing. While he was off with her, I was left alone, exposed to who knows what. And yet, he had the audacity to come home and pretend everything was normal. I made sure he understood just how disgusted I was with his behavior. Then he got angry and blamed me for his infidelity, saying he only started cheating because I couldn't follow his lead. But where did his lead take him? Throughout our marriage, I've been the one pushing him forward in his career. In fact, the job he has now, I applied to on his behalf. Meanwhile, I doubt he even knows my full job title. I encouraged him to reconnect with his adoptive parents when he started obsessing over family, even though neither of us were ready for kids. He continued to rant about how I broke my promise first by not wanting to be a real mom and not quitting my job. He accused me of turning his adoptive parents against him because they refused to meet his new girlfriend. Then he had the audacity to suggest that everything could be put on pause if I learned how to make decisions that benefit a family and not just myself. I asked him directly if he was implying that we could get back together if I quit my job. He admitted yes, saying he would always love me, but I made things more difficult than necessary. I hung up and blocked him on every platform. The rest of the night was spent drowning my sorrows in wine, wondering what kind of person I had shared my heart with. The next day, he went public with their relationship on Instagram, posting a photo. Many of our mutual friends reached out, with my closest friends leaving less than kind comments on the photo. It turns out that my ex-husband and his new girlfriend have been together for almost 8 months now. She's only 20 and her son is around 2 years old. I decided to reach out to her ex, the father of her son, who she left to be with my ex-husband. He was just as blindsided as I was when she moved out with their kid. We met up, went for a walk, and ended up at a bar. We cried, laughed, hugged each other, sang songs way too loudly, and sobbed in public like lunatics, but it helped us both. We also exchanged evidence for any potential court battles. I'm a bit skeptical of my ex-husband for now, especially considering their significant age gap. She was only 17 when they met, and he was 26. He claimed she lied about her age and that they met at a college party. He thought she was pregnant after a short while, and despite initially offering money for an abortion, he ended up trying to do the right thing and moved her in with him. It turns out she's not actually allergic to cats, she just hates them. Plus, she was well aware that he was married and had been to our house multiple times. He admitted to cheating on her before their son was born, while she was pregnant. However, she didn't confront him about it until after she had already moved out with their son. He said he was still texting her every day, not just about their son, but also about the possibility of working things out between them. He wants her back, but it seems like she's head over heels for my ex-husband, just like I was. I wished him luck, but that's definitely not the direction I'm heading in. This time, he's made his bed, and I'll have to lie in it for good. There's no chance of us reconciling. I've never taken someone back after a betrayal, and I won't start now. Initially, I wanted the divorce to be quick and simple, even if it meant giving up some things. But after that conversation, I've decided I'm going to fight tooth and nail for everything I can possibly get. I live in a no-fault divorce state, But my state does have special laws for adultery, and my divorce attorney said it looks pretty good that I won't have to pay him alimony. He also advised me to scrutinize every single banking transaction in my accounts. He didn't believe they got an apartment on his income alone without some extra cushion, meaning my money, and he was right. Last year, my ex-husband told me he got really into stock trading and asked if he could invest some of my money as well. Turns out he was never trading stocks at all. The screenshots he showed me were all fake, and he'd been sending that money to his girlfriend or saving it for their new place. I've been furious ever since I found that out. He even had the audacity to ask his adoptive parents to request visitation rights to see the cats after he had to give them back when he realized his new girlfriend was allergic to them. I made it clear that he needs to first pay me back and then take it up with the judge. I never thought visitation for pets was a real thing, but according to my lawyer, it very much is. I officially filed for divorce yesterday, and he sent me a colorful email accusing me of being selfish and bitter for not putting my pride aside and rushing to file for divorce. He also accused me of cheating and refusing to let him stop by the house to see the cats. Update 3. Went on my third date since filing for divorce from my husband. I made the mistake of getting married at 23. We met in a foster youth program. Long story short, I didn't want to be a stay-at-home mom since I was the breadwinner, and he found someone younger and less experienced who would. I wish Reddit allowed you to change usernames, but here we are. I had to pick up another job to ensure I could afford the house on my own. However, when my regional lead from my main job heard about it, they gave me a promotion that actually reduced my work hours and increased my pay. I still kept the second job though, as it keeps my mind busy. Most of my work days were spent in collars and heels, but the side job is at an overpriced, membership-only gym that I definitely can't afford without my employee discount lol. I've had a few guys approach me since I filed the divorce paperwork, but I just wasn't feeling up to it. Even though I stopped wearing my ring the day he moved out, I still felt guilty, like I was betraying him. He was the only man I've ever been with, so spending a decade learning everything about one person and now having to switch gears is really damn hard. But one of the guys I often see at the gym asked if I'd be his date to a seminar he's sponsoring. I initially said no, and he accepted my response gracefully. A few days later, I bumped into him again, and we struck up a conversation. I mustered up the courage to suggest a lunch date, just the two of us. I was fully prepared for him to reject the idea, but to my surprise, he cancelled his existing plans. We met up a few hours later, and honestly, my face hurt from laughing and smiling so much. He's quite charming and has a wealth of random knowledge about safari animals, which oddly brings me comfort, much like watching animal documentaries. He asked me out for a dinner date the next day, and when he mentioned he was in my neighborhood earlier that day, I invited him to stop by and grab a breakfast sandwich before I left for work. I have a 9-year-old cat who usually dislikes most people, but she surprisingly took a liking to him and even allowed him to pet her belly. He even dropped off lunch for me at work, and since then, we've been texting almost non-stop. I've never felt this comfortable with someone so quickly in my life. It's a bit scary, but I've already told him that my husband and I are separated. I haven't delved into all the details, just mentioned that things didn't work out and we grew apart. The seminar was last weekend, and I went with him as his date. It was an amazing night. I even tried champagne for the first time, had fantastic conversations with some of his associates, and did a bit of professional networking too. The tomboy teenage girl I used to be would never believe this. But more than anything, I'm grateful for the support of my friends, who helped me get through the tough nights so I could make it to the good ones. I guess it's only up from here, right?